Good morning, ultimate hustlers and digital empire builders. It's that time for the Cortez Hustle Show. And today we got another one lined up for you today, man. If you ever thought about going international with your hustle, then we've got the founder and CEO of the CEOMom Empire, Devon Moody-Graham, who's going to come on and talk to us about how she is rapidly becoming a best-selling author and now taking her business around the globe. So if you've ever wanted to do business in other places in the world, then this is a show that you want to definitely check out. So do me a huge favor, comment in the chat where you're from, drop the name of your business and all your brand, and smash that share button, ladies and gentlemen. And let's kick it this morning. Yo, what's up, ultimate hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally or I've learned from or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, coming to you live and direct from the Thornton Online Marketing Studios right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Listen, if you are a local business and you want to dominate your local market, then it's all about strategic marketing. And I want to help you do that. All you got to do is for a free marketing strategy session, text local biz to 314-730-3999. Again, text local biz to 314-730-3999. And one of our local lead generation ninjas will get on the phone with you and give you some tips and strategies, 100% free, on how you can dominate your local market. We're talking about dominating local market, but on today's show, we're going to talk about going international. My girl, Devon Moody-Graham, is here. She's going to be talking about her international hustle, her new book that she's got out, man. We are going to have an amazing, amazing conversation. If you are a CEO mom, you are a mom boss, you're trying to boss up as a mom, get your entrepreneurship on, get your motherhood on, get your wifey on, all of those things and make it all work, Devon is the one to talk to. A couple quick announcements before we bring Devon on. Today is a very special day for me. Two reasons. Number one, we're starting the Cortez Hustle office hours. That's right, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Free digital marketing consultations. All you got to do is pop on the stream, ask your questions. It's going down right here on this very page. If you're watching us on the Facebook Live, facebook.com/The Cortez Hustle Show. We got to focus for today's office hours. I'm going to be showing my credit repair experts how to build a sales funnel and a sales system, including text message automation. So it's going down. And then, of course, live Q&A, so you can ask any digital marketing questions that you may have. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a Roku device on your TV, I want you to download the Unheard TV channel. Why? Because your boy's got a show on there called the Black Biz Success Show, where all I do is teach Black entrepreneurs how to grow and scale their businesses. So download the Unheard TV channel to your local device, and then look for the Black Beard Success Show with yours truly as the host. And I think we're on episode number 7. Amazing content for you guys. So be sure to check that out. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I had the pleasure of seeing this young lady speak. I believe we connected through Ariel Bivens Biggs, my girl over at Young Biz Kids, and she delivered some messages to the young entrepreneurs. I said, man, I got to have you on the show. So she is actually a friend of the show. This is her second time coming to hang out with us on the Cortez Hustle Show. So I'm going to present to some of y'all and then introduce to others Miss Devon Moody-Graham. Good morning, Devon. How you doing, sis?
Good morning. I'm amazing. How are you?
I am amazing as well. So I am excited to have you on the program this morning because while I have never even traveled outside of the country and definitely haven't even thought about doing business outside of the country, I know you're going to help us with all of those things today. But before we get into any of that, I start every episode, Devon, with a quote of the day. So basically, I'm going to give a quote, and if you have a favorite quote that you like to share or live by all means, share yours, or you can just comment on mine. But today's quote is from Dr. Jessica Houston. She says, "You can produce excuses, or you can produce results, but you can't do both." So if you got a favorite quote, you can share yours, or you can give me your feedback on that one.
You know what? That's so funny. I literally say that all the time. Just talking about excuses in general, because excuses don't yield fruit. Well, you know what? Yes, they do. They yield
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So excuses, but if you want fruit from the seeds that you planted, you need to do what it is and sow those seeds to make fruit. So I like that. I like that quote because
Yeah.
it's always it's go time. No time for excuses.
It is, man. I had a coach who coached my son in football when he was a little league football player, and he used to always say, "Excuses are useless, Jihad." And it's funny. My son is now 22 years old and playing college ball, and he still lives by that to this day. So yeah, man, we ain't got time for no excuses. I'm a solutions oriented guy. You come talk to me with your problems and you can just tell me what they are one time. But the next time we talk, you should be talking solutions or that problem should already be gone. Don't be talking about excuses. One of the things that I hate, and I want to get your take on this before we formally introduce you, people who get on social media and bash their family and friends for not supporting them in their business. I hate to see that, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I feel the same because what I try to get people to understand, and especially when I'm talking to very new entrepreneurs, I
Mm-hmm,
try to get them to understand that there's only certain ways that their family and friends can support because like 99% of the time they are not your customer. So they're
mm-hmm,
not going to be purchasing your product, but they can share. I've had people who are so far removed, people I may haven't, might have not seen in 10 plus years, 10, 15 years, but they know what I do and they refer people or they
mm-hmm.
share a post. Those are the ways that they can support. But it's not about them so much purchasing it because every product is not for every person.
There
And
you go.
so, and then that's too much energy to spend being upset about your business. You can spend that energy growing your business. I have friends who have referred people to me. They're not my customer, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to create something to purchase, but they do get people to me. And
Gotcha.
so my sentiment is exactly.
All right. Love it, love it, love it. Well, Devin, I ask everybody who comes on the Cortez Hustle Show, and I asked this of you last time. I don't know if you remember, but I'm going to ask you again. And the question is this: who the heck are you?
Right, right. So I am a disruptor. I
Mhm,
am a solution creator. I am a lover of green, both the color
mhm,
and just of life. I love family. I am a community leader, business owner, and my greatest titles outside of those things are wife and mother.
mhm.
Um, what else? and I love pasta. So that's my fun answer. Um, I love pasta and
Gotcha.
seafood, but I'm really someone who, like I said, creates solutions
Hmm.
and looks at how we can get things done. Literally, as you know what, just looking at that quote behind you, stay humble, work hard, be kind. When
Hmm.
we are put in a position to do things we love, we are kinder.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I just want to be able to help people do more of the things that they love
Hmm.
so that we can be kind around miserable.
That's right. I love that. I love that. And we are definitely going to get into how you are disrupting the industry. But and I know you were on the show before, and we talked a little bit about your background. But I think the backstory is important. And the whole reason I do the Cortez Hustle
Mhm.
Show, two reasons. I'll give you the first one here is because everybody has an image or a picture or an idea of entrepreneurship in their head, and sometimes it's all wrong and it's keeping them from pursuing entrepreneurship. So I like to get people's backstory to show
Mhm.
how many different ways you can fall into entrepreneurship, as well
Mhm.
as how many different ways you can do entrepreneurship. So let's
Mhm.
go back to young Devon. Give me an idea of who
Ooh.
young Devon was: elementary, middle
Oh my
school, high
goodness.
school.
You know what? So young Devon has always been a hustler. Young Devon has been
Mm.
slinging candy since she was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
Young Devon understood market share very early in life. I knew that
Mhm.
there was a candy store around the corner. I knew what the top selling products were, and I took my allowance and said, "Hey, Daddy, can you go to Sam's and buy me hot fries?" I remember my first three products. It was Andy Camp's hot fries, the blue
Mhm.
bag.
Mhm.
It was Starburst, the pack
Mhm.
when I could sell them for 50 cents. So they were not as expensive as they are
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and Twix.
Mm.
But that comes from my parents. I come from parents who are entrepreneurs. My
Mhm.
dad has been a shoe repairman or cobbler for over 60 years now. My
Mhm.
grandmother, cosmetologist, had a cosmetology school, property. My mother, cosmetologist. So I come from creators, people who
Yeah.
were creating things. And I started working and helping my mom in my dad's business probably when I was about 8. So I
Mhm.
was writing checks and I was going with her to the supply store to get things he needed. I was always meeting people and talking to people. So I started networking and connecting very early.
Mm.
I knew that I ultimately wanted to start a business, but I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
so as I went through high school, I joined with Junior Achievement at the time. So I knew that
Mhm.
was right up my alley. And I learned a little
Yeah.
bit more about marketing and people and finances and things. And so going into college, I actually thought that I wanted to be an attorney. And so I
Mhm.
went in English pre-law. And it's so funny how things work out because prior to that, I wanted to be a doctor.
Mhm.
And because I was good in math and science, I loved helping people. But I went to a med prep program. And once I got in there with that cadaver, I was like, no, medicine is not for me. I'll help people in different ways. So
Say,
I
let
knew
me
that
help
wasn't for
people
me.
live versus
Yeah.
trying to keep them from dying.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's not it. But in hindsight, and then I like to create things. So I was always
Mhm.
into fashion. And so I said, okay, when I look back on that as I ended my undergraduate career in consumer and textile marketing, it all came together because all throughout high school and college, I've been an advocate for people and helping them
Mhm.
find their own voices, helping them create paths, and ultimately helping them to make decisions for their lives. So that's around being an attorney, you're advocating for someone. So, okay, that's where that comes from.
Mhm.
I've always liked to help people. So that's where the health part doctor came from. And then, of course, fashion, I can fit fashion into everything and teaching. So I was able to wrap all those things up into one. Um, but I actually used to be a little upset. I'm like, God, why can't I braid hair or, bake or something? You got me over here talking about let me help people with my mind. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, us as a people, like when because I started my business this year, will be 14 years ago, I didn't know any Black consultants that were doing what I was doing. I
Mhm.
really felt alone in that space. And I was trying to figure things out. And outside of like hair services, nail, car wash, those types of services, for our people, they didn't really understand. Well, they understood, but didn't know or the value of wanting to pay, for
Yeah.
consulting services. And
Right.
so I found myself like, okay, I want to help the businesses. I have these great ideas and minds to do that, but y'all got to pay me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got a growing family, figure things out. So what I had to do is really do a whole take on what it is that I wanted to do and find out if this is my passion, but I need to get paid, who also wants to help these people and can pay me. And so I was
Mhm.
able to shift and help other consultants shift to say, yes, you may have a heart, but you still need to get paid. So you find out
Yeah.
who is in alignment and find those corporate budgets and corporate dollars to get you there. So that's when I started working with colleges and universities that had small business programs. I started working
Mhm.
more recently with CDFIs, community development financial institutions. I started working with other people who wanted to start programs to reach minority business owners.
Got you. I got you. So before we go way off into the business deep
Mhm.
end, I want to ask you this because I ask every Black woman that comes on, particularly because I know Black women are the fastest growing segment of
Mhm.
entrepreneurs on the planet right now. But you went through the college route, and then did you go corporate right after college, or did you go on business right after college? What was your corporate experience if you had any?
So yes, I did go corporate. But it was a funny experience. So my very first job outside of while I was pursuing my master's degree in business, I actually was wanting to work more on the fashion side because my undergraduate degree is in consumer and textile marketing. So it's like a
Mhm.
mixture of consumer behavior and retail marketing.
Gotcha.
And what I did was I actually opened the store was the West County store, H&M. So I opened that
Mhm.
store and I was behind the scenes with bringing that store in, the merchandising, the marketing, and that was exciting. I learned a lot through that process, but I also learned that I didn't want to work anything in retail because no matter
Mhm.
what, those hours are horrible.
Yeah.
And I was leaving the store. I had a little baby at the time. My son, who's now 17, he was mm, less than a year old at nights.
Mhm.
I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I transitioned more into the marketing side, and then I started working in inventory control for a company called what was it called? Home Decorators Collection. So they were bought out by Home Depot, but they did
Mhm.
home goods. But that was my first look, and that's funny. I didn't even reflect on that. That was my first look kind of at working with international markets because I did a lot of the forecasting for products that had to come in from India from like 6 to 9 months out, but we had to
Mhm.
look at trends and I sat in on meetings to say, okay, these are the trends, these are the colors, this is what we need to order. And even though I came in as an intern, I actually had more experience and more foresight than some of
Mhm.
the other employees. I created forecasting tools and was able to really work in that vein of bringing items internationally here. So I never
Mhm.
got to attend a trip, but I got to work behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
From there, I worked at Boost Mobile in field marketing. I got a
Mhm.
lot of experience there because I traveled to different markets. I interacted with people all across the country and really creating relationships on the B2B side and the B2C side with events.
Gotcha.
As well. So I really got a lot of experience in like my first couple years of being out of undergrad.
Gotcha. I love that. And then what was the personal experience? Did you experience any backlash because you are young, gifted black, right? We see a lot of that
Mhm.
is, and sometimes as black people in our community, we talk a lot about, hey, because I'm black, I had this experience in corporate, but there's also a age issue. No, because I'm
Mhm.
young and a
Mhm.
threat with my brilliance, I'm getting this backlash. And then to be young, gifted, and black, that could create a whole slew of problems. So how did you handle those kind of issues that came up? And I love this for women because I know even with your hair, that could be
Mhm.
an issue in corporate.
Mhm.
Like it's so crazy. Black men have their things in corporate too, but I know women have a certain special set of circumstances that they have to overcome. And a lot of times we don't even recognize the tenacity that it takes for you just to get up and go into a corporate structure every day.
You know what? It's so funny because I experienced a lot of ageism because, as they say, black don't crack. I'm almost 40, but I still get carded,
Yeah.
and so you can only imagine me starting off as a very early 20-year-old. And I worked in the beer industry as well. So I was in very white male dominated industries. I went natural about 9 years ago. So I actually was well into my full-time entrepreneurship when I went natural, because I had thought about it, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. And just for that reason, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. I saw people starting to do that more, but I was like, I'm not ready. So I had my straight bob weaves, and I had my, those things to, just kind of
the
still be
assimilation,
myself.
right? That's like
But
we
yeah,
have to assimilate. Hey,
so
you want to
that
be
was my
considered
experience.
for these positions and not let your hair be a distraction, for instance, then it's best to do it this way, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, I did. No, I did. And so I experienced a lot of ageism. I would come to the table. I remember I was probably about 22, 23 when I was sitting in meetings. Like I said, I also worked with a black owned beer company right before going into full-time entrepreneurship. And sitting in those meetings with Anheuser-Busch and watching this process, and who I still call a mentor today, Ray Hill, he really helped me to navigate spaces where people didn't look like him, because he was a black man, the only black man with a deal with Anheuser-Busch. So they had a partnership, formed a company. But when InBev came in, they cut all those deals. So he had like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Of course, things changed. InBev was bought out.
Yeah.
And so that totally disrupted the business that he had been building, started from a home brewer. But I was able to sit in on these meetings with people. Most of the time, it was only he and I that were black in those meetings. We were sitting in a very male dominated area. And even within I'll say within wireless and Boost Mobile, there was more diversity. And I would say, as far as corporate experiences, that might have been my best, because I was able to be my authentic self. They wanted the fact that I was connected to the community. That's the reason that I was brought in.
Yeah.
They love the fact that before I transitioned, before I transitioned fully to natural hair, black women in their hair. I found weave that was on a weft that it was like a natural hair. So I started to wear it in that time to see how I would like it. And that was shortly after, when I transitioned, I said, oh, I like this. And so I wore these froze, and people thought it was my hair. So then when I transitioned, it made sense.
Gotcha.
And I was able to be myself in that position because they value community. They value meeting people where they are. And it was very diverse.
Gotcha.
But when it came to sitting in those boardrooms, I was the only. A lot of times I was the only, I could be the only woman. I could be the only black woman. I could be the only black person. And what I was able to do, simply because of my parents and how they've always taught me, I was able to be confident in my skin, and I was able to say, hey, this is it. I changed my voice in meetings, because I don't have a very light voice, but when I'm in meetings where I have to assert myself, I would make my voice deeper.
Yeah.
And I would speak slower, because I speak really fast, like especially when I'm comfortable. So I spoke very clear, very definite, because you're going to know that this 20-something-year-old knows what she's talking about. And if you don't do what I'm, suggesting, then that's going to be your fault or your failure. And so I really learned to assert myself because of that. I experienced more ageism than anything.
And I bring that up because it's not always the race thing. Sometimes it's just the age thing, and sometimes there's the intelligence thing. It's like, you're too sharp, and I'm threatened by your brilliance. So let me try to put a ceiling or a lid on you. Let me keep you away from the decision makers, because you start bringing all these hot ideas. Then that's gonna show my lack of ambition and drive. So it's a whole thing, man. And I just try to get that experience, because I know some of that plays a part into making the decision to get into entrepreneurship. But we've got to get into my favorite part of the show, Devin, and that is 1 minute motivation, right? I'm a huge stickler for positive personal growth and self-development. And I emphasize positive because people tend to think that unless I'm reading Think and Grow Rich or another mindset book, then I'm not doing personal growth and self-development. Everything you consume contributes to your personal growth and self-development. The question is, are you growing in the right direction based on what you're consuming? So we do positive personal growth and self-development. So I'm going to play a short motivational clip, usually about 60 to 90 seconds or so. And I just want to get your takeaways. I'll give a couple of takeaways, and those who are watching this live will comment a couple of takeaways, and we'll read some of those as well. So let's get into 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
Oh, I'm going to tell you something. That decision cost me everything I had. I lost everything. I lost my family. I lost friends. I lost everything. I became homeless. I lived in a car for 3 years. But I just saw this. I saw this vision. I just pursued it. I said, wow, that's it. You have to take chances in life. Life is about risk. If you play it safe in life, you ain't gonna have much of a life. If you play it safe, you won't have much of a life. Life is risk. It take courage to pursue your dream. Now, it's gonna cost you something. Most people are not willing to pay what it costs to go after your dream, because you're gonna have to hurt a little bit. And most people don't like being uncomfortable. If you don't want to be uncomfortable, please do not pursue success, because success is a very uncomfortable feeling. And I just learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's my man, Steve Harvey, right? So the reason I love doing this, especially when I have a guest on, is because we all just listen to the same clip, but based on where we are in life, we all heard something very different. So what did you hear, sis?
I definitely am in a season of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because I'm in a stretching season. I'm in an accelerated season in my life. So I understand that. And so I've had to go through those times where I had to change, the relationships changed. I was setting boundaries personally and in business, but it was necessary for where I needed to get. And that's something that we don't talk about enough. When we start to set boundaries, people think you acting funny.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm literally protecting my peace, and it's okay to say when I'm not okay, so that I can go and be okay. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making other people uncomfortable so that I can grow and get where I need to be. And it's important for people to know, as they shift and change, everyone won't understand it, but it's okay. It's not for them to understand. They can just watch and see.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. Man, he said it's risk, right? Are you willing to put it all on the line?
Yep.
Right. I read a meme on Facebook just yesterday that says entrepreneurs are willing to risk it all for a dream that only they can see. Right. And I think we get caught up in nobody else can see this vision. That's because God didn't give it to them. They ain't got to see it. It's only one person required to believe in order for you to make that thing come to pass, and that's you, right? Are you willing to put everything on the line? Don't pursue success if you don't want to be uncomfortable. That to me, Walter Bond is one of my favorite motivational speakers. If you don't know his story, he never started on his college basketball team. For the whole time he played in college basketball, he never started, right? Had a couple injuries late in his career, got drafted to the NBA still, and became the only undrafted free agent to start on opening night for his professional team. Now, he never started in college, but he worked his tail off and started opening night in the NBA. And he said the road to success is always under construction. Meaning there's always going to be some detours. There's always going to be some, hey, this road is closed. You got to go somewhere else. And I think we got to get to a place where we're just comfortable knowing that this ride ain't going to be smooth. And I'm okay with that. I'm here for it. That's what I signed up for. So That is, ladies and gentlemen, 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the Devon Moody-Graham version. So make sure you go to devonmoodygraham.com. You get a copy of her book. She'll sign it for you and everything right there on the website. And you can learn how you can work with her as well. So we're talking with Devon Graham about her life and what led her into entrepreneurship. And now that we've gone through the whole gamut, elementary, middle school, high school, college, early career in corporate, then she made that proverbial leap that we all as entrepreneurs make, whether it's full-time, whether it's part-time. The other thing that Steve Harvey said, it takes courage to pursue your dreams. She had the courage to start a business. So what was the first business you started after corporate?
So the first business I started, it was called Creatively Strategic Solutions, and it was a consulting firm. It was actually birthed out of unemployment. It was birthed out of unemployment. So I told you the story about me working with a Black-owned beer company. After InBev, like swooped over and bought Anheuser-Busch, and so many things changed. I helped him prepare for like next steps. And so he was like, you're really good at this, because I worked as assistant to the CEO and in marketing. So I learned a lot. I mean, working between the distribution centers, the sales team, the marketing team, that was me going. I was checking the stores to make sure items were on the shelf. So I did so much. And he was like, you're great at this. You should do this full time. And I had already started thinking about it, but I didn't know what it looked like. But once the company basically, it ended, because that's a long process to become to have a beer, because you have to go through food and drug and tobacco and all of those things. And so it was really like a push off the cliff to say, fly bird fly. And with that, I just started working on a name. I said, okay, well, I am a creative. I create solutions. That's what I've been doing since I was single digits. Anybody's having a fight, I create a solution to it. Let's come up with, the solution. There's no point in fighting. What can we do to change it? And so I first started working in marketing and creating marketing strategies. And I ended up connecting with someone who had gone to my university at a Black alumni event at University of Illinois. And she had worked with Coca-Cola and brands. She was in the Atlanta area. So she had worked in the music industry. And so she gave me a couple of documents that I needed. And I still am in touch with her today. And she was like, listen, make sure you have a signed contract. Make sure you have these things. And that was it. She was pretty busy, but she was able to give me that information. Yeah. And so I started with my dad's company. So I said, okay, well, I got an in-home company, Dad. Well, I'm your first client. So I remember looking back at my credit report, because my dad's business is on there. So my dad was actually my first client with his shoe repair shop. So I was creating flyers, and Facebook was still very new. But I was letting more people know about, the business, and I started in that vein. And then I moved on. I had a tax client, and I started doing like HR. I started doing business. I profit for him. So that was my first time getting in that vein. And I really did about 15,000 things, all to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. Right. And so fast forward, I later dissolved that company just a couple years ago. And I started CEOMom Empire, because I had started a support group around moms and entrepreneurs that wanted to be entrepreneurs, that wanted that social business and just emotional support on this journey. And I said, okay, well, some people call me CEO Mom. So it's like, you know what? Hey, I kind of got a built-in brand here. I am building an empire. And so CEOMom Empire was born.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. So you just listening to you talk these last 30 minutes or so, there's a couple things that really, really stuck out. And you said that you learned this early on, but I don't want people to miss the things that you were able to pick up, from your experience in corporate, attaching yourself to the right people, got you in certain rooms that a young 20-something wouldn't be sitting next to the CEO of a beer company who's also in partnership with the biggest beer company in the world. So I can imagine the types of meetings that you were in. But then also you said that when you started working with your dad and some of these other smaller companies, you did just about anything to figure out the one thing that you're really gonna hang your hat on. And I think that's important. So talk about the ability and the necessity of, like Robert Kiyosaki said, being willing to work. Rich people don't work for money. Sometimes they work for partnerships, they work for relationships, they work for the knowledge. And it seems like you did a lot of that and gained what's paying you now, where it may not have paid you when you were acquiring that. So talk about the importance of that for young entrepreneurs.
That is literally the basis for my company. So as I now only work in the veins of helping people create relationships, helping them to identify the resources that they have that offer value, and for them to identify what resources they need for their clients, and looking at revenue. So I work with those 3 R's: relationships, resources, and revenue. Now within my company, now that I know what really makes companies go, I'm great at building partnerships. I've had, over 15 years of building partnerships because I've always sought to add value to others. So when I was looking to learn, it wasn't just, hey, what can you give me? What can you teach me? It was, hi, I'm doing this. This is what I can do. I'm looking for this. So I was always looking to add value. Yeah. And because of that, I've been able to create relationships. So really, people pay me for the relationships that I've built, the partnerships, and how to teach them how to do the same organically so that they can build relationships that ultimately produce revenue for their companies. Gotcha. And so that's literally what I've been able to do. I sat in rooms with people. I learned what type of relationships I wanted. I learned what I did not like about relationship building in corporate. And so I really took that time to hone in on what will help small businesses grow. What does it take to help growth and scalable businesses? And then now into this next phase, what's needed to really show that a business is export ready or ready to go international. So I really kind of put those in buckets because there's some similarities, but then there's other differences to move them forward.
Gotcha. Man, that is so powerful. When it comes to CEOMom Empire and you helping women on this entrepreneurial journey, this one thing, every time I talk to a woman entrepreneur and moms in general, I had a guy, Dr. Jerry Bobo, once told me about, he said, every woman has an identity crisis, is in an identity crisis, right? Because they're a mom, they're a wife, they are employee. There are a lot of things before they figure out who they are. How do you help CEO moms kind of learn how to be selfish? Because I'd imagine you have to learn how to, like you talked about, set those boundaries and say, hey, I've got to stop pouring out and take time to fill my cup so I have something to give. And that, I know, as I watch my wife try to do it, it's hard for women. How do you help coach them do that?
So you know what? The first thing is that I'm always authentic and I don't mind sharing my story. So I definitely have had to overcome. I've had, just like breakdowns because I was doing too much and saying yes too much, saying yes to other people but saying no to myself. I was literally at a point where as my family grew, I was losing myself. But in the midst of it, I literally found the community of women that before I formally built it, the community of women that were following me because I just kept pushing through. It literally helped save my life.
Yeah.
Because once I found out so many people were actually watching me, for me, I was just moving forward as I had, baby number 1 in college, baby number 2, baby number 3, baby number 4. Like I literally was still attending meetings. I would push a stroller in, baby quiet. Even to this day, my two oldest daughters, they just went with me to a pitch competition. They sat down, they knew mommy was doing something, and they ended up making money then too, because they talk to people about their businesses. And so that's what I'm raising them to know who they are, know their value, and to be able to speak to people. So it all worked out. But when I think about that journey of self-definition, which is what I talk about in my book, I redefined what motherhood was. And I also made it okay for women to say that I put myself first, because putting myself first doesn't mean that my children's needs are not met. It means that if I'm able to be as healthy as I can for them, we can be happier. Mama's not fussing as much. We can do more. I can think clearer, and we're all better for it. And so being okay to denounce what social norms said was okay. The whole mom guilt thing, not even a thing. It's like nobody talks about dad guilt or uncle guilt or grandma guilt. Where is this whole construct from? And so I remember feeling those things as I started to travel, because even when I started planning my first international trip, I had like a days old baby, like being months old. And then she was months old when I left. I've gone places and done things that no one would question a man about at the time, because no one asked where his children are or where. But as long as I know my children are in good hands, which they always are, why not? Or why can't I pursue a future? Why can't I pursue things that are going to grow for my family? So I literally just start everything that the society was saying. I say it doesn't exist in my mind. It doesn't even exist. I'm going to define this journey and define who I am, so that my children will do the same.
Yeah, I love that answer, because I talk about, there's this thing about work-life balance, right? And people drive me up the wall when they try to define work-life balance like it's for everybody. And I use the football analogy. I don't know if you're a football fan, but in football, there's two ways you can score. You can run the ball in, or you can throw the ball in. And some teams throw it 80% of the time and they run it 20% of the time. That's not a 50-50 balance, but that is balance for the makeup of their team. So if you and your husband say, babe, the baby is 10 days old, I got this, you going to make some moves, go make your moves, and don't let nobody make you feel guilty about that. I think people just, again, that traditionalism of what society says a relationship should be, that was all created and defined so that our government functions a certain way, that corporations profit off of that, and it is not designed for you to win in life at all. Those definitions were created by the people who are going to win from everybody moving and operating in those definitions. So I'm glad that you redefined what motherhood is for you, what motherhood is entrepreneur, what wifehood, and all of those things. And that's critically important. So you mentioned the book. How's it going? And what made you at this point in your career say, you know what, now it's time for me to put some of this stuff on paper for other women? And it's overcoming living our best life in spite of. I love that title.
You know what? So I've been really blessed to have amazing women in my life, especially amazing Black women. And Pat Coleman has an amazing story. She is a CEO, and she was a teen mom. So when you see who she is now, to see everything that she has done, and she put this compilation together specifically for Black women. I was in this book with 32 other Black women sharing their stories of overcoming, and we all have our own stories. We all have our own challenges. Is over because it's a continuous journey to overcome whatever the obstacles are, because we know there are multiple obstacles. And for me, I talked about self-definition, and self-definition for me was very important, because I used to, just like anyone else, let society define who I was as terms of, okay, I'm a little girl from East St. Louis, Illinois. We all know the statistics around it, impoverished area, most likely they're thinking, okay, either I'm not going to graduate from high school, or I'm not going to have a post-secondary plan, whether there is a career, or I'm going to get pregnant and I'm not going to do anything afterwards. There were so many statistics stacked against me that I literally made myself crazy trying to be perfect. So I was, top 10 in my class, all the activities. By the time I got to college, I was burnt out, but still moving. I was at a predominantly white institution, 2% Black students out of 40,000 students. And I was still trying to just make sure I proved them wrong. But it was like, who is them? Right. I only need to make sure that I live up to what I've created. And so when I got pregnant with my son, my senior year in college, I thought I let the whole world down. It was, I mean, it was so crazy because once I went back to my home life where I talked with my parents, of course, I was most afraid of telling my parents, do you know what my dad said? Now I'm a daddy's girl. I'm the baby of 10. I just knew that I had let him down, that I was going to get a scolding. My dad said, I already knew you were pregnant because you kept asking me to bring home fried rice. That was his response. And I said, well, Daddy, I'm going to finish college. I'm going to keep doing everything I said I was going to do. He said, I know. He said, it's going to be a little harder, but you're going to do it. And he gave me a hug and went back to reading his paper. I built up all of that about this world. And I said, you know what? None of that matters. My mother was just like, don't run off and get married because you're pregnant. Because she grew up in the 60s. She grew up in a time where when she had my brother, she had to marry his father, miserable or not, at 18. And so that was her fear. And the other one, my dad was like, I know you're going to do what you said you're going to do. It's, and do what you want to do. They've never tried to create my path. They've only supported it. So after those, that was all for me. My shoulders got lighter. I knew I could do what I wanted to do. I had my baby March, walked across that stage in May, enrolled in grad school, and I kept moving my journey and kept moving along in a way that I was creating for me that said, I have my son. Now I got to work even harder. But everything that I set out to do, I'm going to accomplish that and more. Right. And so it was really big for me. In my chapter, I talk about things that I've accomplished throughout my motherhood and me adding children. And each time I've accomplished amazing things. When my son, of course, graduated my first degree, second degree, speaking at commencement. After I had my oldest daughter, of course, being well into my entrepreneurship years, having a couple companies behind me, I was literally in the bed after I had my first daughter. I'm doing paperwork because I did a commercial development, grocery store. After that, after having my third child, I think she was about 3 months, I had been invited to the White House. So by the time she was about 6 months, I was at the White House, After having my fourth child, being pregnant with her is when I started birthing this international journey. And with that, I was literally sitting there and saying, hey, I could do this. I started making connections in Paris when I was pregnant with her. By the time I had her, I was announcing my first international plan. So I just talk about those things. I'm a boss up with the babies. And the
there
babies.
You go. Because again, we can make excuses or we can get results. We can't do both. And your response to, hey, pregnant, okay, and I got things to do. I love that. So real quick, you mentioned the international piece, and I got another segment that I got to get you on, but I call this thing International Hustle. And I think you guys who are listening, you can see that she is the international hustler based on all of the experience. But you talk about helping people prepare their businesses for international. Give us a couple things that a business should start looking at if that is the goal down the line. What are some things they should start looking at this year if in 3 years they want to go global?
Okay, so first thing is that you definitely have to understand your costs. You have to understand what markets you want to go into. So it's multiple ways you can go global. The way that I've been able to help is to create basically my own. So I set up those relationships where Paris is where I've set up shop. So it's a global melting pot. You have needs. It's a huge Black expat community. So it really depends on who your customer is. So you have to know who your customer is. You have to know your costs, and you have to know if you have a product that you're able to, that people are willing to pay that extra amount to get there for shipping. Because in other countries, especially in France, when you ship something outside of the shipping you pay, they have to pay a VAT tax. So that's to basically accept it. So depending on the markets, you have to know if you have an item that's good enough for people to pay those additional fees, or if you can, you have to really understand their culture and what works for that area. So the first thing, like I said, I would say definitely understand your cost if you have an actual product, and to understand the culture of your target market. As you think about paperwork, you need to have your documents in order, and records, because long-term international business can be expensive. If you're shipping from one customer to another, they take on the cost of the accepting it, but you have the shipping costs that you have to think about for that item. So you know what, like more than anything is knowing who your customer is. Everybody's not going to purchase, something that internationally that they can get domestically. So you have to show that your product is something that is different, that you add value in a different way. I would also say get your online presence together, and you already know that, like, that's the only way people can know, because the way that I've been able to bring on other French clients is that I was searchable. They can contact me. They saw that I was doing what I said I was going to do, and I'm active on all of the appropriate platforms for the type of business I have. So now my service-based business is different from my product-based business. So I have a partnership to bring items into a store in Paris, but that's totally different. So if you have products such as fashion goods, if you have beauty supplies, things like that, you can either go in one customer at a time, or you can create relationships where you're shipping products wholesale to be sold in those markets. Also, the third way that you can get into business is to go through the appropriate chains with exporting through the U.S. government. That is, of course, a longer process, and that's the process that I want people to ultimately get to. But I know the shortcuts because I'm about solutions. So that's why when I have in a June trip, I actually have a beauty product brand that's going to be attending, and some service-based businesses, but she's going to get in front of the market so that she can build the relationships needed in order to ship those products in bulk to potential customers. And then, of course, with the euro being more than the US dollar, you make money. When you're shipping to other companies, you can make more money. I like being paid in euros. Okay.
I love it.
I like being paid in euros.
Well, check this out. We've got 6 minutes or so to go, and I got to get to this segment because this is my second favorite segment of the show. And it's called freestyle, Devon, because I know you got bars. So you don't come from Eastside and not have no bars up in this piece. So
okay,
I could drop a beat, I could beatbox for you, but no, freestyle is not about that. As I'm building this multi-billion-dollar international media conglomerate that will one day surpass Disney and Ted Turner, I don't always ask the right questions. The conversations don't always go where I want them to go. So freestyle is your opportunity to either reiterate something that you feel is important that needs to be reiterated, or if we haven't gotten to something that you want to get off your chest, take this time, 2 minutes, tell the people what it is that you really think they should know regarding the conversations that we've been having today. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the Devon Moody-Graham version. Hit them with your best bar, sis.
Okay, so I would say, know that your journey is your journey. Don't try to create a journey based on other people's lives. You don't know their story. Stay authentic to yourself. Me being my authentic self is what has got me to where I am today. Whether I am talking about business to, teens, or I am talking to somebody coming out of the grocery store that asks me what I do, or I'm sitting in the boardroom with, multimillionaires, I am my authentic self. And so that is important with this journey. I would always also say, continue to have a childlike faith. It was so funny that when you talked about what was, young Devon doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have now returned to the faith I had as a care and look at the globe and turn my globe and close my eyes and put my finger there and stop and say, I'm going to go there. That's where I've now returned. Because if we all can return to that place of having childlike faith without adulting, it'll take us back to a time that we will do the things that we need to do in order to get to the big dreams that we had. Yeah. So I would really say, continue to walk in your own journey, be your authentic self, go back to those childlike dreams, and most of all, be okay with being uncomfortable, because as you're in a growth season, you're going to be uncomfortable. You don't want to, if you're comfortable all the time, then you're definitely not reaching or moving towards the dreams. You're just in a place of not contentment, but I really think that you're probably headed to being miserable. So be okay with being uncomfortable so that you can ultimately get comfortable.
Boom. Drop mic, ladies and gentlemen. Bars. That is freestyle right here, and that is Devon Moody-Graham, international hustler on the Cortez Hustle Show. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Do me a favor. Tell everybody how they can connect with you across social. How can they get your book? All of those good things. We got 3 minutes.
Yes, so you can come to my website, devonmoody-graham.com. I'm on all social media platforms. So I'm on LinkedIn, Devon Moody-Graham, as well as Instagram, Devon Moody-Graham. On Twitter, I am Devon Moody-Graham without the last A, simply because my name is so long. But you can definitely find me on those platforms. And I'll be out and about. So if you are in the St. Louis area, I have a lot of upcoming events. I'll be speaking around the new market and things and helping employees to understand our millennials so that they can actually get these innovative individuals hired. I'll be doing that at SWIC next week on both campuses. In May, I actually have a partnership with the World Trade Center, which a lot of people don't know we have in St. Louis. The World Trade Center, they had a lot of the international business. I'll have events to introduce people with a focus on Black-owned businesses to learn how to go international and understand that process. So I have 2 events coming up, so look out for that marketing this week. And I'm just moving forward and helping to fill gaps.
Love it, love it, love it. You've been listening to and learning from Devon Moody-Graham. DevonMoody-Graham.com is the website. Find everything she's got going on there. A link to all our social media handles as well. So that's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Until we talk to you next time, I want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. So hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.